Imagine growing up in a family where love is conditional, praise feels like manipulation, and every move you make is part of an unspoken competition. What if your identity, whether you were the perfect one or the perpetual problem, wasn't chosen by you but by a parent with an insatiable need for control? Narcissistic parents create invisible but ironclad roles for their children, and these roles, golden child, scapegoat, or even the forgotten middle ground, shape how their children navigate adulthood, relationships, and self-worth. At the core of this dynamic is the narcissistic parent, someone who is obsessed with maintaining control, admiration, and power. Their love isn't freely given, it's transactional. Children in these households aren't seen as individuals, but as extensions of the parent's ego. To preserve their sense of superiority, the narcissistic parent assigns rigid roles to their children, creating a hierarchy within the family. The golden child, who can do no wrong, and the scapegoat, who can do nothing right. But the story doesn't end in childhood. These roles are like invisible tattoos, shaping how children from narcissistic families perceive themselves and navigate the world into adulthood. From the outside, it might seem like the golden child has it all. They're showered with praise, treated like royalty, and held up as the standard of excellence. However, this seemingly enviable position comes with hidden shackles. The golden child isn't loved unconditionally. They're loved for their performance and compliance with the narcissist's agenda. The golden child is often praised for achievements that reflect well on the parent. Whether it's academic success, athletic prowess, or just being the good kid, their worth is tied to their ability to make the narcissistic parent look good. Behind the applause lies immense pressure. They're expected to live out the parent's unfulfilled dreams and uphold the family's facade of perfection. There's little room for mistakes or individuality. As adults, golden children often grapple with imposter syndrome or perfectionism. They've been trained to derive their self-worth from external validation, leaving them vulnerable to burnout or toxic relationships. Some may even adopt narcissistic traits themselves, emulating the behavior they were rewarded for, while others struggle with guilt and resentment for being complicit in the family dynamic. In stark contrast, the scapegoat becomes the family's designated villain. They are blamed for the household's problems and subjected to criticism, no matter how unwarranted. While the golden child is idealized, the scapegoat is demonized, providing a convenient outlet for the narcissist's frustrations and insecurities. The scapegoat is often independent-minded or emotionally sensitive, traits that threaten the narcissist's need for control. In response, the parent smothers them with criticism, belittles their achievements, and projects their own flaws onto them. The scapegoat may either rebel against the family or withdraw into themselves, feeling isolated and unloved. Scapegoats frequently enter adulthood with deep-seated feelings of inadequacy, shame, and anger. They may struggle with self-esteem and carry the wounds of emotional neglect or abuse into their relationships. Yet, scapegoats also have the unique advantage of seeing through the narcissistic parent's facade. This awareness can fuel their healing journey and help them break free from the toxic dynamic, though it often comes at the cost of going no contact with family. The golden child and scapegoat often have vastly different perspectives of the same environment. The golden child may view the narcissistic parent as supportive, while the scapegoat sees them as cruel. This division can breed resentment and misunderstanding between siblings, making it difficult for them to form a united front against the parent's manipulation. The golden child may resent the scapegoat for not conforming, seeing them as a troublemaker. The scapegoat may view the golden child as an enabler or feel abandoned when the golden child aligns with the parent. This dynamic often persists into adulthood, with siblings struggling to reconcile their roles and perceptions unless they both recognize the narcissist's manipulation. Narcissistic parents maintain power by creating an environment of instability. Here's how they do it. Triangulation. The parent pits siblings against one another to prevent unity. For example, They may praise the golden child for success while pointing out the scapegoat's perceived failures in the same breath. Gaslighting. They deny or rewrite past events to distort the children's perceptions of reality. Love bombing and withdrawal. Affection is given as a reward and withdrawn as punishment, ensuring compliance. Projection. The parent denies their flaws and accuses the scapegoat of the very behaviors they exhibit. These tactics create a household where trust is eroded, and every interaction feels like walking on eggshells. As adults, the golden child and scapegoat must take conscious steps to dismantle the identities imposed on them. Healing involves unlearning toxic patterns, setting boundaries, and rediscovering a sense of self outside the narcissist's influence. Recognize that your worth isn't tied to performance or external validation. Challenge the perfectionism and fear of failure instilled in you. Seek therapy to process feelings of guilt or complicity in the family dynamic. Address the wounds of emotional neglect and rebuild self-esteem. Understand that you are not the source of the family's dysfunction. Embrace your independence and use it as a strength in your healing journey. For both roles, consider going no contact or low contact with the narcissistic parent if necessary. Rebuild sibling relationships through open communication and mutual understanding if possible. Reframe your childhood narrative. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim, view yourself as a survivor who can rewrite your story. Growing up under a narcissistic parent can feel like living in a carefully orchestrated play where you were cast in a role you didn't choose. But the script doesn't have to define your life. By understanding the dynamics of the golden child, scapegoat, and narcissistic parent, you can begin to untangle the threads of manipulation and reclaim your identity. Breaking free from these roles takes time, but it's a journey worth taking. Remember, the scars left by a narcissistic parent are not your fault, but healing from them is your responsibility. You deserve a life defined by authenticity, not the role someone else imposed on you. If this resonates with you, leave a comment below about your experience. Did you grow up as the golden child, the scapegoat, or somewhere in between? Let's start a conversation about healing and growth. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourself.